Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Today I'm speaking with Sarah Ragsdale, aka Sarah Roxdale. I'm sorry, I should have asked you that. Which name do you prefer?
No, you're good.
Okay,
I know it's kind of confusing. I'm sorry. I guess online I'm Roxdale, but my real name is Ragsdale. It's weird. I should fix that.
okay.
It's
And
just
Sarah is she makes videos on YouTube, and she's a blogger. She's also ex-pentecostal. Is that correct?
yeah, that's correct.
And
Yeah.
so I mean, you do like lifestyle blogging and vlogging, but you also talk about religion, atheism, and recently started talking about Islam, and that's kind of
Mhm.
where I got to know you from. You made a video about why you're talking about Islam. So if you want to give a quick synopsis of your story, and then we can start from there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, again, I was raised Pentecostal. I was actually adopted at 5 weeks old, and I was raised in church. So speaking in tongues, Benny Hinn crusades, like that's like my childhood. Like if you've seen the documentary Jesus Camp, that's my childhood. Just add sexual abuse onto that, like
Oh,
basically. But yeah, my whole background, I was just raised in church, and I also talk about sexual abuse because I suffered that when I was a kid. And I started my YouTube channel a few years ago, and the focus was more so on beauty and fashion and that kind of thing, like that whole community. And I was actually a Christian when I started my YouTube channel too. So I came out as an atheist only, I think, 3.5 or 4 years ago now. And as soon as I kind of realized that about myself, that's when I started talking about atheism and religion and more recently Islam. But I kind of have like an amalgam of topics. It's kind of a wide range of things. And it's interesting because people come to my channel for fitness things or for food recipes. And now it's more religion, and people want to see me talk more about that. So it's kind of cool. I'll also talk about trauma and things like that. So it's just kind of a wide range of things. But I like doing it, that and just blogging, and I'd like to do more of that this year. So we'll see how it goes.
right, I gotta ask because when you mentioned Pentecostal, I mean, the only thing I really know about it was I remember Benny Hinn from like back in
Yeah.
like the '80s and the '90s and stuff like that. And I knew about the speaking in tongues, but like it's you don't really hear much about it. Like I know it's got something to do with like you have to be baptized.
Hmm.
Like so it's not like born again or something, is it? It's like I'm not quite sure.
Right. It was like when I was little, it was kind of described to me, and even in the Bible, it talks about it being like a spiritual gift that God will give you. Yeah, and it's honestly, it's just nonsense. I made a tutorial on how to speak in tongues, and it was kind of like this spoof thing, but at the same time, not really. At the same time, I was like, hey, if you're a kid and you're being indoctrinated and you're being forced into this and you're uncomfortable with the idea, but you can't say, hey, this is bullshit. I made like a tutorial on how to do it, and also saying, hey, I think this is bullshit, but if you're stuck in that situation, here you go. Shan da da la la la, like that's it. Just make what everybody else is doing. But yeah, that's kind of how it was explained to me. Is it's a gift, it's a spiritual gift, and it was also God will interpret through someone else as well. So when I was a kid, you'd hear someone speak in tongues, and then a few minutes later, or maybe even half an hour later, or a while later, we would just wait in silence, and then we would hear somebody else like interpret the message. Supposedly God was speaking through these people. It's just weird. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. Sorry, did I answer your question?
Oh, that's fine. Okay, but the speaking in tongues, that's actually kind of funny. It's like I heard Dawkins talk about it once. It's like
Hmm.
how do you do a control study for homeopathy? It's just water. So if you're faking speaking in tongues, like I mean, you're faking bullshit. Like it's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I mean, or it was like most recently it was those hoax papers. I don't know if you read about those. They,
Oh,
yeah, like, and they got accepted as honest papers and they're being cited again, and and then now people are like, oh well, even though you say it's bullshit, it actually fit in with your methodology and our research, so they're
uh-huh.
actually valid papers. So these people made these hoaxes. Like I don't know if you heard about that story. Like they
I hadn't.
Okay, so there was three acad. Well, one of them is a professor at Portland U. Another one lives in the States, and the third one, she lives in the UK, and they did a whole bunch of hoax papers on what they're calling grievance studies. So one of the papers was, and this paper was given an award from this journal that's been around for 25 years. It's like one of the best feminist journals, and they said this is one of the best papers we've ever had, blah, blah, blah. And it was about how they investigated the genitals of 10,000 dogs at dog parks in Portland, and how dogs humping each other at dog parks was emblematic of the patriarchy, and they should train men like how they train dogs.
Whoa.
Okay, so so like I'm saying, like, you're faking speaking in tongues because you're faking bullshit.
Yeah.
And then it gets accepted, right? Like, what if someone translates that fakery, right? And this is the same thing. Like, they put out these false papers, and it's false in the sense that they follow the methodology and they use their language. And when the reviewers and the editors from these journals said, okay, here, make these suggestions, they fixed it according to the methodology of those research. So they did it properly, but they're false as in, like, like they're showing that the whole methodology and everything is false. Like, another one they did two with Mein Kampf. One got rejected, the other one got accepted. And basically all they did was change Jews for white men. And they just chucked sections of Mein Kampf and got them published.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I didn't want to go off on a tangent, but it just reminded me of that. Like, like getting people to fake BS to get accepted. And like the papers were kind of like that.
That's wild.
Okay, I got to ask you this, and this might seem like a weird question. What do you get the most hate from? Or like, what kind of hate do you, like, I'm sure, okay, if you're doing beauty blogging, it's not the same as talking about religion, but someone might get pissed off because, like, oh, well, why are you, especially nowadays, you're like, shame everyone, and oh my God, like, it's, you're fat shaming, you're this or that. Like, do you get like hate from both, or or is it different?
I do. I find the rage is like almost equal all around. Like people online just like typing away at their keyboard, and they don't even have like a, what is it, like a avatar or anything. They don't have like their name on there. It's just all hidden. It's interesting because in the beauty space, I'll put up something like, here's a hair tutorial, and then somebody would be like, well, this is the worst video I've ever seen. I'm like, okay, whatever. But it's kind of like the heat, you can feel it reading the comment. I don't know. But like, I guess obviously with religion, that's where I get most of the pushback. Because I think a few years ago when I came out as an atheist, and before that, up until that time, I had only put up like beauty videos. So here in America, it's like super like Christianity and whatnot. And I had a big following of like these young girls watching my videos. So I put up a video on what atheism is and what it isn't, and I'm an atheist, and there's nothing wrong with that. Think for yourselves, think critically. I'm just saying I'm not convinced a God exists. And I talked about like the misconceptions with atheism and stuff like that, and I just wanted to normalize the word atheist because it was still looked at as, oh, you're a Satan worshiper, or you're like something like that, or something dark or something evil. So I made that video. And I got like angry emails from parents, like, my daughter watches your videos. How dare you talk about being an atheist? That kind of thing. But now it's more of, people get angry about, I think it's out of fear or something when it comes to religion. Like when I talk about, I personally don't believe in life after death. People get really outraged with that. And I get it. But that's just one thing. And then when I talk about Islam, for sure, I get some pushback, but I wasn't expecting to get any support at all. So that was interesting. But I do get people I got some angry emails from a couple Muslim guys, and they were just furious. Like, how dare you talk about Islam? You don't come from it. So how dare, like, that kind of thing. So I definitely get support, but I'm surprised at how hateful some of the comments get. But it's online. I mean, you put something out on the internet, and I mean, I guess I kind of am just asking for it. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, like I wasn't trying to trivialize the hate you would get. I just thought like you might get, people seem to be able to get upset about everything like these days. Like, just the most innocuous comment could just, like I was joking around with someone the other day. They said, you could tweet out that, oh, it's a nice sunny day and I'm feeling great, and then there's a really, really small percentage of the population that has this. It's not really an allergy, but they call it an allergy to sunlight. They feel physical pain in sunlight.
Oh,
And you
right.
could have one of those people. I'm not saying they would or have, but I mean, like, it's theoretical that one of those people could say, "Oh my God, are you? You know, you're that's so hateful. I can't go out in the sun. Like, how could you say something so horrible?" Right? Like that's within the realm of possibility now, and that scares the hell out of me. Like that you can,
Right.
like
Me too.
we're getting so worked up about anything.
You can't say what things are.
Yeah, you can't. No, but I mean, it's just you can get you just about anything. Like even like I said, I mean, especially now, if you know, I had a friend just today who said blah blah blah. I've lost X number of pounds, and she was
Hmm.
getting grief for that. It's like, well, blah, like, why are you giving her grief because she said she lost some weight? She wants to lose weight. She lost weight. Good
Yeah.
for her. Like,
Right.
why is that? How is me taking pride in losing weight or whatever affecting your life? Like, how does that? I'm not shaming you. I'm not attacking you. I'm not telling you you have to do it. I'm not telling you you're worse than I am for doing it. Like it's like that's what I was trying to get at. Like I just
Hmm.
you can get hate for just about anything. Uh,
Yeah.
Another quick, well, like, did you did you find you changed how you talked about beauty after you like came out as an atheist, or after you changed your religious views, or do you still talk about it the same way? Like, did you? Not that
Hmm.
there's like I mean there is a modesty style culture in Christianity. It's nowhere near what it is in Islam.
Uh-huh.
But did you speak about like putting on makeup and stuff differently when you were still believing, and than when you do now, or is it just exactly the same?
It's about the same, just in the sense that when I do these tutorials, I guess, online, especially when it comes to like, I don't know, I used to be into like, the whole reason I got into the makeup scene was because I was really into like special effect makeup. So Halloween season was definitely a thing for YouTube videos. Oh my goodness, it's kind of wild. It's amazing what some people can do with makeup. Really transformative makeup. But I still do it the same in the sense that when I do some tutorials, I just try to focus on like step by step instruction, I guess, or something like that. I like to try to make my videos as quick as like kind of as short and to the point as possible. So when it comes to that kind of content on YouTube, that's when I just kind of stick with.
Why did you start focusing on Islam? Like, what did you see about that you thought you needed to talk more about that for?
Oh, right. I actually I started to listen to Sam Harris's podcast, and when I get into podcasts, sometimes I like to scroll all the way to the beginning and just kind of see how the podcast like evolved and like how it started and whatnot. And especially he's got so many interesting guests on his podcast. So I was like, okay, I just came across one of the earlier ones with Ayan Hirsi Ali, and before that, I had never heard of her name before, or if I had, I didn't know who she was. So I just listened to him give a quick introduction on who she is and her background, and I was just floored. I was like, okay, she's amazing. Okay, so I listened to that podcast episode, and I was just kind of stunned, and I just wanted to learn more. And I've heard of Islam before, but I never really dove into the topic. I've heard people have those conversations, and I never got into them myself. So after listening to that podcast episode, I just thought, okay, I need to read her books. I need to learn more about this because I think that was just like kind of my first steps into this. And I started with Infidel, and I was just, again, shocked and horrified, honestly. And I just wanted to learn more. And I remember back in May of last year, my husband and I, we went to the memorial, the 9/11 memorial and museum in New York, and that kind of just fueled me, I think. Just seeing that and being there, and then looking up at the Freedom Tower and just feeling this sense of hope. And then I don't know, at that time in my life, I was also thinking of, all these people that have these 9/11 conspiracies, and how that's just crap. Yeah. And I was just feeling like all of this emotion of like anger and sadness and just wanting to do something. And I thought, well, what can I do? Like what? And then reading Ayan Hirsi Ali's work, that really inspired me to speak up, especially thinking that, more people in the West, especially people who identify on the left or whatever, like more people, it doesn't matter who you are, should give more of a platform to these people who come from Islam. And we should, acknowledge the problem that it is. Like it's problematic, it's dangerous, the ideology, So I just kind of felt all this, and I thought I should be doing something if I can do anything. Um, and I was recently thinking maybe I should invite people to be on my channel in like a video format or something who come from Islam. That would be kind of cool to do that, like as a video series. I thought maybe that could be the next thing I could do. I was just trying to think of anything I could do to help. Um, I think of people like Sarah Hayter and like all the cool works that she's doing with ex-Muslims of North America and Muhammad Syed, and I really back up Yasmin Muhammad and what she's doing with her organization, Free Hearts, Free Minds. I applaud them, and I kind of look up to them. So, yeah, I just wanted to do something about it, and I think it just started with honestly listening to a podcast and just reading some books and wanting to do something.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would know about this, but
Uh-huh.
I had a friend who recently, and she's very public about it. Like it's someone I met on Twitter, and I was on her show, and then she converted to Catholicism at the end of 2016, like just before Christmas, and she was very public about it, and she's been tweeting about her conversion, right? Like how like she finally converted to Catholicism, and now it's her first year as a Catholic type of thing, and
Wow.
and the apologist style statements I see from her,
Hmm.
change a couple of words around, and it could be coming from, any Muslim cleric or mullah or anyone like that. Like, now that you're starting to speak about Islam, do you notice like things like that? Like, what you would say about Christianity, or what you had heard, people say about Christianity to defend it when you're still believing, or do you see the similarities between that? Like, do you see like the same kind of talk, the same kind of back talk or whatever, or?
A little bit. I remember I put out a video recently called like 10 Harmful Effects of Religion, and I was speaking from my own personal experience. But some people looked at that video and they kind of started following me since I started talking about Islam, and they said you could say the same thing about Islam, about how you felt with your religion and like the harmful effects of it. In that sense of, I don't know if this really answers your question, but with indoctrination, I know they're completely different religions, but indoctrination, not being able to think critically for yourself, and not really being able to think for yourself at all, or else you're shamed, or your voice isn't heard. You're not allowed to have a voice really with religion, but that kind of thing. I go through a few other examples. I mean 10, but is that kind of like what you're?
Yeah, no, it's sort of like, okay, that, I mean, I do a podcast with two other ex-Muslims, and we were focusing on people who left any faith, not just Islam, and to show that, okay, the shunning that you get from Islam, it's not, okay, yes, people talk about it from Islam, but it happens in, if you're Hasidic Jew, if you're Jehovah's Witness, if you're Amish, if you're Mormon, like these things happen in other faiths. So, so I mean, when you, like something like that, what you were saying, like, okay, the dangers of the indoctrination, the dangers of the faith, this is again another thing that this is, just have to change a couple of words around, and it's universal to any kind of really extreme, harsh faith, right? Where people are very zealous and very strict and very fundamentalist, and it's faith above all. It's
Right. It makes me think of sorry.
No, go ahead.
It makes me think of like the ideas and how some people can read the text and also take it to the extreme. Like I think that's where it just comes into danger territory.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and I've been talking about this article a lot recently, but it was because I liked it so much. It was an article about how, like the far left, the social justice, and even the far right, like the race realists and all that other crap, right? They're almost religious-like. They have a lot of religious-like aspects. They they have their own version of blasphemy. So if you especially like the far left, you have your original sin, which is white cis males, or the patriarchy, or whatever, white privilege. Like that's your original sin. And so I mean, you have if you look at if you forget religion for a second, look at the far right and look at the far left. If you say one thing that doesn't fit in with their mold, they're going to kick you out, and you're shunned, and you're not wanted anymore, right? If you're right wing and you are part of, like I said, like these race realists or whatever, they're just racist. And you say something, well, we shouldn't kick out all of Group X because we need them. You might get kicked out, or if you're on the right wing, speak out about you speak in favor of abortion, you're all of a sudden you're shunned. And
Right.
then the left wing, same thing. Like you make some joke, like Kevin Hart, what happened to him at the Oscars?
Right.
Tweets from 10 years ago. I'm not saying what he said was okay, but you're gonna dig in through someone's past for like 140 characters from 10 years
Right.
ago and say like you're a worthless person now, like.
Right. And people I feel like people need more compassion towards people. Like, why, like, shut out someone forever for a mistake or whatever? Like, or why can't you just say, hey, oh, sorry about that. Let's move on. Or I don't know. It's like people are the Twitter sphere. Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, but it's Twitter, and now it's like seeping out into real life.
Right. Right. And people losing their careers over things like this. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I think the worst example of this was Garrison Keillor, right after the Me Too thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, right after the Me Too, like, right after the Harvey Weinstein come out, then you had the Me Too movement going on, and which, in and of itself, it's great. Let's call out these, monsters. That's what they are. But Garrison Keillor, and this is the story from both the parties involved. So from him and the woman who brought it up. And this was something that happened like in the 90s or maybe the early 2000s. It was after a recording of one of his shows. It was all done. He was sitting on the couch, or she was sitting on the couch, and she started crying. He goes to give her a hug, and he touches her breast. Now, it's either accidental or he did it on purpose, whatever. He apologized right then. She accepted the apology. He spoke to her the next day, apologized again, and sent her an email, and everything was cool. And then this whole thing with Weinstein happened. It came out. So NPR fired him.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
And like both of them agree on what had happened. There is no disagreement on the story, right?
Right.
They fired him. Not only did they fire him, they erased every episode, and it was like close to 30 years worth of radio. Like, it would do a 1 hour, 2 hour show every week.
Insane.
And so his entire career is gone.
That's insane.
And it's okay. I'm not okay. If he did it on purpose, he does deserve, some reprimand or something, because that's not right.
But I mean, that's extreme. Yeah.
Like, you're wiping out a person's life. And I mean, I heard when the whole thing with Lawrence Krauss came out, there were some rumblings online where people said, well, maybe we should get rid of his work. I'm like, okay,
gosh.
it's bad enough that you did it to Garrison Keillor, and I'm not trying to do, who's worse with it, but if you got rid of Lawrence Krauss's work, any advancement in physics that was based on that won't happen, or has to be gotten rid of as well, because it's based on the work of someone you want to make an unperson. Like, it's, people talk about, it's Big Brother's watching and it's 1984. Things like this to me are more 1984. You are making an unperson. Like you're getting rid of this person. You're getting rid of their history. So you can't talk about them anymore. Same thing happened to James Franco to a lesser degree. The Vanity Fair cover, right? They took him off the cover because he made some comment about hitting on a 17-year-old in New York City or something like that, which is gross and it's disgusting. But I mean, it's like, go back to a cover from a couple of months before and wipe him off. Like, really? Like, it does exist. People do have it out there now. Like, it's but yeah, it's too much. And like, what I was saying to you earlier, this is kind of why I started doing this. I want to talk about why we're getting so off the rails, and why I was as well. Like, I was getting off the rails, and some of the things I'm trying to stop myself from doing, or trying to stop other people from doing, I was guilty of to some extent over the last couple of years. I mean, especially the way I talked about Islam. I
hear you.
Because it was not something I ever talked about really much. I mean, I became an atheist. I'm 49. I stopped believing when I was 16. I told my parents when I was 22. So let's say 27 years that I've been openly atheist. So it's not like it was like a shirt I took off and just threw away. I don't need it anymore. It was not something I talked about. It was not something that came up day to day. And then recently, like about when I got back from overseas in 2014, that's when I started talking about it. And then, so like, I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to change the way. And like, some of the stuff I've seen you say, it's like, obviously you're going to have disagreements with people and the little things. It's, just more points of style. But
yeah,
I like that you're not just going on an all-out attack. And there are certain things that need to be attacked. But I just don't see any purpose in that. Like,
I I hear you. I've been trying to like just being able to listen to people have like honest, open conversation, like those long form conversations. I think I've learned so much from that. Just being able to listen to people and like really hear what they say, and then being able to kind of say what they've just said back to them, and just so we're on like the same level, and then going from there. But I don't know. I've learned a lot from just those conversations, but I hear you too. Like there are things I've done or said where I wish I was like, well, you know what? I want to learn from that. I really like what you're doing with your podcast. This is cool.
Well, like I said, it is selfish for myself because maybe I'm wrong. And one of the things, like I think that one of the things that we need to try to do, and maybe you can comment on that, is what are your first principles? Where are you coming from? A lot of people say, "Oh, I believe in free speech and I believe in the Enlightenment," without even really thinking about what that means, right?
Right.
What do you mean by the Enlightenment? What do and then they'll go on and say, "Well, we need to have equal rights for homosexuals." I have no problem with that. Like, that's a laudable goal, but that's not a first principle. It's not like if you want to talk about individual freedoms, you can use that as a first principle, and then from there you can expand. Okay, by individual freedoms, I mean that everyone has a right to practice religion. Those are things that grow out of that first principle, right? So, I'm having a hard time from again. I'm trying to divide everything now. Like I'm getting away from left and right. I don't think those terms have much meaning. We're stuck with them. We kind of have to use them, but they're losing so much meaning. But is it authoritarian or is it libertarian? Is it open? And religion falls in that authoritarian category. And I'm trying to at least with religion, I have an understanding of where that comes from because we've had it for so long and we know. But some of this, the outrage on the internet about the smallest little thing, like, where is your first principle? Like, what are you coming from? Like those kids last weekend, the kids in the MAGA hats, right?
Right.
Like, you watched, some people watched a 1 minute video and all of a sudden they're calling for these 16-year-olds to be killed.
Right.
And it's, I saw the video, I saw that 1 minute video and I'm like, these guys are assholes. And then you see the whole thing and it happened and it's like, okay, they're still not the greatest people in the world, but they weren't really the instigators here. And,
right.
But to call for like famous people like Kathy Griffin and Reza Aslan, like
out of all the people who should be doing that, Kathy Griffin.
Yeah, no, but like calling for them, shame them, name them, dox them. Reza Aslan saying, have you ever seen a face that's more punchable? Like, seriously, Reza? Like, come on.
Calling for violence. I mean,
calling for violence, and they're 15 and 16-year-old kids. I'm not, it's not a boys will be boys, but
they're kids.
They're okay. Every single 15-year-old is a dumbass. I was, and
Dude, me too.
but like seriously, and,
I would have gone on Hinged if that was me. I don't know if you listened to. Did you listen to Joe Rogan talk with Barry Weiss about this?
Yeah.
Really, it was really cool. I really side with what they said in that podcast. Like, if Joe had been 16, like he would have. Oh, he just would. I mean, it would have been a different outcome rather than just smiling at the person who's yelling in his face.
Like, I had a very quick temper when I was a kid. I mean, and it just snapped, and I used to get in a lot of trouble for it. And if that guy had come into my face, banging his drum, I probably would have hit him. And just because I didn't know any better, but I'm not saying like, okay, and again, they were wearing MAGA hats.
And they don't even know to the extent of what that really means.
Yeah, or were they wearing MAGA hats because they know it's going to piss people off and they're 16-year-olds and they want to piss people off, right?
Assholes.
No, and I'm not, again, this is not a defense of...
Rally, piss people off.
Well, yeah, but that's... Okay, when you're 16, you do it for a couple of reasons. At least I did. It's like, to get the attention of girls, like get people to think you're cool or whatever, or worse scenario, piss people off. I mean,
getting some form of attention.
Exactly. Like, it's just like...
This outrage from everyone.
But I mean, how do you, I don't know how you can justify that. And I mean, that's one thing. Another thing was, everything is being banned. Let's ban everything. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like over Christmas, Baby It's Cold Outside has to be banned because it's promoting rape. And then, you know, but
It's just it's
why not ban gangster rap? Why not ban Don Giovanni, the opera? You know, it's about a
right.
guy who went around, you know, didn't rape, but he was like, you can consider date rape, or you know, like he coerced women into having sex with him. You know, like,
Uh-huh.
so call it slut shaming. Call it what? Why aren't you going to ban Don Giovanni?
Right.
Why
Not
ban this one song?
ban all violent video games.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a little crazy. Anyways,
It's
just
it's too crazy. It's yeah. How did we get here? Like
uh,
how did it? Oh my gosh. I need to look more into that. Um, yeah. I mean, first and foremost, I think I really do value free speech, and and that is something I've been trying to learn, especially over this past year, on how to really listen to someone, especially someone who's on the opposite end of that spectrum, like someone who you don't agree with at all. How to just sit and be willing and patient and listening to someone and actually listening to them, and instead of me thinking of my response, or instead of me thinking or just letting my emotions get the best of me. So that's something I've been trying to tackle this past year, I'd say, maybe less than a year even. But I realized before I would get too heated, or I'd get too flustered or something. But I think just learning how to have better conversation with someone, especially when it comes to disagreements and things like that, and not letting my emotions take over, or just thinking the other person has like this ill intent or something. Like they may not have any bad intent at all. This is just where they're coming from, and you just need to be able to listen to each other. But yeah, I am an advocate for free speech. Um, but when it comes to, especially when it comes to when I started talking about Islam in those videos, I wanted uh, I wanted to come from a place of compassion and understanding, and especially when I made that hijab video, because I was looking at it from the angle of, well, this is a tool of oppression. Like, this is misogyny. This is, I was thinking of it as that way. And then I was sent a link actually to this girl who goes to Harvard. I'm not sure if she's still there, but I think she was on, I want to say she was on Vice. But I linked that video in my video where I talk about the hijab, and she was talking about how if she were to take off the hijab, it would deeply, deeply upset her family and her mom. And she said, it's not so easy for me just to be able to take it off. And I was understanding it from that point of view as well. But I might be going
no, it's fine.
in several different directions here. But before, it was just, I'm against the hijab totally. And I understand, like, some people are, they have more of a freedom in terms of being able to take it off or not. And a lot of women don't. So that's kind of what I wanted to voice in the video as well, is, hey, you can't just say, just because in my own personal experience, I can take it off, and so it is empowering to me. But it's not empowering to other women who are forced to wear it and who are beaten or killed or thrown in jail if they take it off. It depends where in the world you come from, who your family is, how extreme they are. There's so many different factors into this. And so, I don't know, when I saw that one video of her just talking about how it would deeply upset her family and she just didn't want to do that. But she said, when I have a daughter, I want her to be able to choose whether she wears it or not. I'm not going to force it on her. If she asks me about it, I'll tell her. But I don't know, it was interesting to hear that perspective, because I hadn't heard that before, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of changed about that, and that's also one of the things I've changed a little bit about, because I used to, and I would joke with my friends, I wouldn't go up to someone's face and laugh at their face, even though
Yeah.
I'd be known to do that from time to time. But,
Yeah.
but it would be like,
Yeah.
so, you'd see someone in a hijab and she's wearing like skin tight jeans or a mini skirt and a halter top, and it's like, and I'll give you a story. I was with my mom, and I took her to where she could get some halal meat, and I was taking her back to her place, and she started, two young girls, actually, like teenagers, walked in front of the car dressed like that. And my mom, she's never worn the hijab in her life. No, like, I think there's one or two members of my family from India and Pakistan who'd worn the hijab or the niqab or anything like that. Just never worn it. But she's like, what is this? This is not the hijab. The hijab is meant to be about modesty. If you're going to wear the hijab, why dress like this? And she's getting, and I'm laughing, right? The madder she's getting, the more I'm laughing, because I'm laughing at her. And then, but I used to say stuff like, and I used to joke with my friends, like, oh, well, what the hell is that? Like, why are you wearing the hijab then? But you know, yes, I understand the hijab. Like, there's a lot of connotations with the hijab, but like that woman, like, she didn't want to take it off because it can upset her parents for whatever reason. She might not agree with everything it represents, but she put it on at a moment where she either she did or she was forced to, and now she doesn't. You know, and so to attack that woman for wearing the hijab, oh, don't you know that, you know? Either way, if you attack a woman to put it on, and say if you don't put it on, you're going to dishonor the family. You're going to, you know, incite lust in men. You know, if you get raped, it's your fault. Like, that's a lot of pressure to put on, you know, a woman's shoulders.
Right.
The other side is as well saying, how can you wear that? You're representing misogyny. You know, you're evil for doing that. Why can't you? You know, she's trying to make her way the best she can in a situation that she doesn't have much control over, right? I mean, she does have some. She can take it off and say, "The hell with everything."
Yeah.
But she's trying to work it out for herself. So, like, I'm trying to change. You know, yes, I oppose it, but again, I was never one to say I oppose the hijab. No one, everyone should be forced to take it off. I don't want to force anyone to take it off or not take it off, right?
Yeah.
But I was opposed it, and I was one of those people who would, like, you know, if you're wearing a mini skirt or whatever, I would poke fun at you, or, you know, like, okay, you're not wearing it, you know, telling you how to be a Muslim. And again, I hate the stay in your lane thing, but you know what? They want to be a Muslim however they want to be a Muslim. That's up to them. It's not up to me, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, like, I mean, like, I think a lot of these things we got to start changing a lot of way that we're talking about it. Like, you know, like it's a very contentious issue. There's a lot of, it's not just open and shut. Okay, it's misogynistic. Get rid of it. Which, you know, on the front of it does look like that. But if you go deeper, like you said, that one woman, or, you know, other people I know, like people who are ex-Muslims, they can't do it because they'll get excommunicated from their family or whatever. So to attack them just because they're wearing it, you know, it serves no purpose other than hurt.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's why I love the hashtag No Hijab Day on Twitter. I think that's pretty cool. Like, being able to see women from all over the world, but especially like places like Iran or Pakistan or Saudi Arabia, and their voices and are visible. And I think that's really cool. Because I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen that happen online, where it's just a wave of women saying, "Look, we're here." So I think that hashtag alone is pretty cool. I think social media in itself is kind of helping bring about some of these more difficult conversations in a way. Even if it's not only on Twitter, it brings out other conversations, like in podcasts or video formats or things like that. In some sense, I feel like social media is kind of helping voices be heard and be seen.
Yeah, like the No Hijab Day. That's it's actually kind of funny. So last year, I sent Yasmin Mohammed a message on Facebook, and she was sending me a DM on Twitter, like literally at the same time. Like, I hit send and I got the message, and then she hit send, she got the message from me. And we both said the same thing. I was like, you know, and I said, look, you know, this, because they have the World Hijab Day on February 1st. And I was just like, they said, you know, like, well, this is a really stupid thing. Something should be done to counter this. And I was like, you know, like, she got a bunch of people burning hijabs. And she sent me basically the same thing. So I believe there was 4 of us last year. There might have been other people, but I actually, like, I got a bed sheet, cut it up, put it on my head, like, wore it like sort of like a quasi hijab. I'd never worn a hijab, and I took it off and I burnt it. Right.
Yeah.
And there was a few other people that did it. And I think Yasmin said, like, last year there was only 4 of us that did it, but it was really weird because we both said it at the same time. And I said, go, like,
Awesome.
And then so, you know, she kind of pushed it, and she was the force behind it. And I think with what was going on in Iran with the White Wednesdays, and then I mean, you know, that had started just before New Year's of 2018, right? So
That's
then
cool.
we, you know, so like that hadn't picked up that much momentum, and it was still going. Now it's going stronger and stronger, and there's more people doing it. So I think this year they're going to get quite a lot of videos and stuff. So see what happens.
It's really cool. Yeah, I'm excited. That's cool.
That was actually funny. Like, I don't know, like, the amount of grief people get, I'm lucky. I don't get that much. But that was the only thing that I've ever gotten a lot of grief online. And most of it was people telling me that I was stupid because I didn't realize that men didn't wear the hijab. That was like the extent of the hate I got from that.
That's wild. Oh man. Yeah. Well, some of the things that I get, like if I get pushback, it's like, well, you don't come from the religion, so you have no right to talk about it. I'm like, well, I have freedom of speech, so what do
I hate that. I hate that. I mean, I
yeah.
don't like. I see
It's
it
like
for.
if someone is hurt and they're calling out for help, or if they want to call out for help but they can't, I'm like, I would like to help them. Like, or why can't people come to people's defense?
Yeah, exactly. But also, there might be Muslims saying don't talk about it because you're not Muslim, right? That's one thing,
Right.
because they're defending their faith. But there's people. The one that comes to mind, and I don't like talking about people who aren't here because they can't defend themselves. But it's Mona. Uh, I can't pronounce her last name. Elathway or something like that. She's an Egyptian ex-Muslim, or she's an Egyptian Muslim reformer,
Oh, right.
and you know, she said straight out like, I'm fed up with these ex-Muslims. Don't talk about it. You left this religion. It has nothing to do with you. The only people who should talk about hijab are Muslim women. And it's like, no. If you want to liberate Muslim women or you want to get some freedoms, the civil rights movement would never have happened if they
Right.
said only black people can talk about it, right? Like gay rights would not have happened if you know
Right. Exactly.
you need a bunch of people talking about it. You need these issues to be spread,
Right.
and it's this idea of stay in your lane. Oh God, no! It's like you see someone who needs help, you see someone who's in trouble, or you see a situation that requires attention. Give it
Hmm.
attention.
Right. Yeah, give it attention. I mean, man, I mean, that's the other cool thing about. I just thought of Rahaf and how she's safe in Canada now, and it's because people came together to give attention to her story. I mean, luckily, I mean, it was quick enough, and I think about her story, and I'm like, if if people just ignored that or didn't do something, like people cared and they kind of came together and giving a lot of voice on Twitter and getting that out into media outlets and reporters who actually reported on that story. That saved this girl's life. I mean, again, I mean, I guess I'm pointing to social media again, I guess in a positive way, because it can be very negative, but uh,
No, no. Okay, social media is it's a tool like any other, and it's how you're going to use it. If you're going to use it to be outraged, you're going to be perpetually outraged, right? It's
right.
like these people who spend their time. I think there are they have nothing better going for their lives, and they spend their days looking for things to be upset about. And it's like it has to be depressing. But again, things like Rahaf, or you can have an outrage, and you
Mhm.
cannot take part in it, but then you can talk about that reasonably afterwards. Like like you were saying, like the Joe Rogan talking with Barry Weiss, they were having a reasonable discussion on
Right.
something that was completely insane, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
it does do that. Like it. So I mean, if you want to use it for that, like basically that's what I've used Twitter for the last
Hmm.
at least 6 months, if not more. Was I just aside from every now and then, I'll tweet out like someone's doing something or it's a cool article, I'll just retweet it. But my interactions on Twitter are just making snide remarks. That's basically all I do now. It's just there's no
Hmm.
point. Just make a snark, and it's with friends. Like I don't do it with or people I interact with. Right? Like I don't
Yeah.
do it with a complete stranger. But
Uh-huh.
just some smarmy remark, and that's it. Like it's just
Yeah, it's funny. I like it. Yeah, that's cool. Huh.
so. So you said you're thinking about maybe talking to more people this year. Like, do you have a plan, or are you gonna?
I kind of just had this idea earlier today. I was like, I was like, this would be so cool because I'm starting to see more people be open and have these kind of conversations, and I think it would be cool to bring that into my channel because honestly, on my channel, it's just me rambling, talking about issues I care about or something. But it would be cool to make it into more of a conversation instead of just in the comment section. So I was just thinking of that earlier today. I was like, how can I make it a little bit more impactful? How can I make this more of a conversation and not just one-sided? So I think that would be really cool to do on my channel. I haven't done that at all yet, so we'll see.
Okay, how do you do that? Like I don't mean the conversation with some other people. I've made a couple of videos for a friend of mine,
Hmm.
and then I've got a couple like on my own personal channel.
Uh-huh.
I can do this. I can sit and talk to you, or I can sit and talk with someone else. I have no problem. But just
Yeah.
staring at that camera and just talking, like I have no like I'll screw it up. I just can't do it. Like I don't know how you can do that. Like just sit and talk to the
No.
camera.
Oh no, you're yeah, it's kind of odd at first, and then I don't know. I just start rambling about things. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a bitch to edit later, but like, it's all right. Yeah, it takes some time to get used to, I guess. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, no, like I said, I tried doing a couple of things, and I was just like, nah, it's not for me. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm stuck with the insanity in my mind all the time, so I don't need to like let it out. I might as well just talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. Just sitting there, I'm talking to my camera, acting like I'm talking to everybody, but I don't know. Weird. How do I do it? Don't know.
So, I mean, aside from that, do you have any other thing coming up on the horizon, or do you like what are you planning on doing? Or?
I really want to get into speaking, and also I want to tap more into writing. And so I think that's where I'm looking at in the next year. Just like kind of getting into more speaking and writing, and just getting into more, I guess, on current events and talking more about religion and atheism. And I still do the light content, I guess, on my channel. It's kind of nice to be able to dive into like the trauma stuff, especially from my past, and talk about those things, but also being able to bring in light content where I can kind of balance it out, I guess. So I can like tap my toes into trauma or abuse, or even talk about religion, and then kind of take a break from it in a sense for a week and talk about light things. It's kind of all right, but I guess that's where I am right now for the next year. But we'll see. Yeah.
If you had any advice for people who are leaving religion or have just recently left, like, what would that be?
I I think it just takes time, but I always point to people to the best resources, because I've been unfortunate with talking with poor therapists or like Christian counseling or something like that, where I've opened up about being an atheist or thinking I'm an atheist, and then their response would be, you know, you need to reread the Bible because clearly you don't get it. Advice like that, where I was reading the Bible, and that's part of what made me an atheist. And then I've had someone look at me and say, oh, Satan's putting these thoughts in your head. You need to listen to God, not Satan. Things like that. That's just poor, poor advice. And that was from Christian counselors or from therapists that were obviously Christian, and I thought they were secular. So I try to point people to the best resources, like Ex-Muslims of North America, Free Hearts, Free Minds, also Recovering from Religion. They actually have peer support online, and they also have professional support online. So you can actually talk to a licensed therapist who is non-religious, who is just evidence-based. And I think that's really cool that they offer that. And it's all also they just give up their time to do it. So it's really cool. I think that just giving yourself time, being able to talk with people, especially I think if you first come from a religion and you don't really have a network or you don't have people in your life, these kind of organizations can be very, very helpful. But if you have people in your life you can talk to, like a friend or someone you trust, just opening up about what you think about things, what you believe, what you have stopped believing, that's crucial, because that's kind of what helped me get out of when I left my faith. Just being able to talk to people and listening to podcasts like this, that helped me too. I'm just thinking of things that have helped me in the past. Those were like my first steps into what I've gotten into, I guess, today. So being able to think critically and learning how to do that and being okay with that, not feeling like guilted and shamed for thinking for myself. It takes time. I think it just takes a day at a time, and be patient with yourself, and yeah, good on you.
That's cool. That's actually like again similarities. So if a Muslim were to bring it up in the household, depends on obviously where you are and how strict your parents are. But one of the reactions is, go talk to the imam, go talk to the mullahs, read the Quran. It's shaitan whispering in your ear. That's where you're getting these questions from. It's the exact same responses, right? You just replace the religion or imam with priest or whatever. It's the same thing. It's another one. I don't know if you've heard of her. Actually interviewed her, was Dr. Marlene Winnell, and she does behavioral therapy for people who've left religions. She was a ex evangelical missionary. Like that's where her parents were, and that's how she grew up. And then she she kind of treats it like PTSD.
You're right.
And there's another one in New York, and I believe this is for Hasidic and Orthodox Jews. It's called Footsteps.
Oh wow.
It's an organization that helps people who've left like Orthodox and Hasidic Judaism, and they help them reintegrate and stuff. So
Wow.
if anyone ever gets a hold of you, there's a couple others that you
Yeah,
can
thanks.
link them
Yeah, I'll
towards.
like put those resources like in the description bar of videos and stuff. That's cool.
Um, Anyways, just one last thing. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Like, thank you very much. So, going
Thanks.
forward, like, what would you give as advice to people who want to start having better conversations, like having like to be able to understand someone better?
Understand? I think first, I don't know. Instantly when you ask that, it makes me think of. I don't know if you watched Megan Phelps Roper's TED Talk. She came from the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I think of like I think she listed 4 steps in that TED Talk towards the end where she's talking about, don't assume someone has bad intent and listen to them, and just being able to fully, just be able to have an honest, open conversation with someone. I think listening honestly is the biggest part. Just being able to listen and kind of say back to the person what they just said in your own words, so that you guys are on the same level, I guess, of understanding. And I think those are the key things. It's like the building block. It's just being able to listen to someone and not be judgmental. So, and then be able to go from there and converse. But I think that's kind of cool. Again, social media, being able to have that buffer time. Like if you guys are spouting out on Twitter or something, you actually have time. You don't have to respond right away. Like you can come back to it. But that's the online space. But I think just listening to people, and fully, I think it's just active listening, really, instead of thinking of a response, thinking of or feeding into emotions. I think that's. I don't know if you have something to add to that.
No, that's actually a good place to end on. And one thing, like what you're talking about there, repeating back what you said to them. In the first person I heard talk about that was actually Eric Weinstein, and it was on Sam Harris's podcast. He was talking about steel manning, right? So instead of straw manning your opponent's position, you steel man it.
Right.
So like that,
Right.
and again, that's kind of what I was trying to do with myself here. It's like I want to steel man my own position so that I can explain it to myself, so that I can better explain it to someone else, right? So that
Right.
you have to know where you're coming from, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't just talk out of your ass, basically, right? You have to have some idea about what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, thanks very much. Like I said, thank you for your time. I will put your social media information and links to your channel and your blog in the description of this. If you have anything else that you want me to add to that, just send it to me and I'll add it to the description. And thank you again. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for listening. And I'll be back soon.